Hello, welcome back to my channel and to today's video, which I'm going to do a bit of a catch up with you just to sort of check in on how things are going with my obviously big life change, moving down to London, starting my master's degree and starting my new job. So for context, it is currently the 19th of September, so we are just over 2 weeks in. I moved down on the 4th of September. No, that's the day I started uni. I moved down on the 2nd of September. So yeah, it's been, what, 17 days? So 2.5 weeks. And, I mean, generally, spoiler alert, it's all going really well so far. So if that's as much as you want to know, then feel free to leave now. I'll just go through stuff generally and how things are going individually. I'll start off with eBay because for those of you who only follow me for my eBay stuff and not for my sort of personal life, yeah, that might be all that you're interested in. And then again, you can leave as soon as you want. With regards to eBay, I've been really pleasantly surprised. I've still managed to get up sort of 1 to 2, sometimes even 3 listings a day. I have also had a fair few days of not listing anything, but the sales are still coming through pretty steadily and decent sales as well. I don't know if it's a mixture of us getting into autumn, sort of the back end of the year. Obviously we're in the last sort of few months of the year now. Well, last 4 months, not quite at Q4 yet, are we? Q4 in terms of year, January to December, not April to March. But I think with the kids having gone back to school and the colder weather coming, even though we have had a heat wave, to be fair, still, I'm just wondering if that's caused a little bit of a shift into more people spending a little bit more time shopping online. As obviously throughout the summer holidays people are so busy that that's not at the top of their lists. So I wonder if that's partly it, because I haven't really changed that much in what I have been doing, although in saying that there was a very large part of the summer in which I wasn't listing anything, and I'm wondering if it's just finally got to a stage where my consistency within listing has strengthened my algorithm to the point where sales are just steadily flowing in. So yeah, I think it's probably a mixture of everything, isn't it, if we're being honest. Keeping consistency with listing and kids going back to school, even though, as I say, still having a few days here and there where I'm not listing at all. So we'll see how things go, but so far so good. I think the main thing is that I seem to be having a lot more organic sales, as in not buyers accepting offers, just genuinely things selling. I've also had a Depop sale, which I've not had in months, and I've had a fair few vintage sales as well. I don't know if you guys remember, but in maybe May, I bought a load of sea salt stuff from the sea salt outlet store on eBay, which is their obviously clearance section, and I listed it all on eBay and didn't really have much interest, and I listed the same stuff on Vinted, and so much of it has sold relatively quickly on there, so I'm really happy with that, especially because usually on Vinted in the past I had been lowering prices as I've been cross list via zip sale, and I've been lowering prices to go onto Vinted, because obviously Vinted people want a bit more of a bargain, but with the sea salt stuff I actually decided to try listing it at the same price I had it on eBay for and see what happened, and it's still been selling, which is amazing because obviously you don't have the fees. So really happy with that, and I have still been taking some offers on stuff on the sea salt stuff on Vinted, but also, you know, I'd take an offer on eBay, so it's the same thing because they're both listed at the same price. So yeah, that's that really, no more to say, other than my postage is changing because I am not very close to a post office. However, I do have to walk past a Collect Plus shop every day, and Yodel is a lot cheaper than Royal Mail, so I'm giving Yodel a go, especially because on Packlink at the moment it's only £2 for parcels under a kilo, including VAT. So I'm changing my shipping on all of my items to be Packlink rather than Royal Mail, and I'm also going to reduce my prices a bit as well, because I was charging £4.50 for Royal Mail, tracked 48. So I just need to sit down and work out what Yodel would usually be when it's not on offer, and see what I need to adjust my prices by. So yeah, that's eBay. If that's all you're bothered about, no worries, I'll see you later. So we'll start off with here, with where I live. Obviously that was a big change, coming back to living in shared accommodation, having lived at home for 2 years, and also moving in with complete strangers bar one person. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but during my search for a room, someone that I knew from when I was at uni at Liverpool John Moores doing my undergrad saw a Facebook post that I put in one of the Facebook pages, that was sort of looking for a room. It's a page where everyone posts, and he'd seen that, so he messaged me to say, do you want to buddy up? And at that point I had viewings arranged, so I said yeah, sure, like potentially, but I do have viewings. And he was like, no, it's fine, me too. It's like, great, let's see how things go. Anyway, one of the viewings was the house that I'm sat in now. So I messaged him and said, yeah, but I've accepted the room at one of my viewings. He was like, no worries. I was like, how did your viewings go? He was like, oh, not great. Don't want any of them. And then I thought about it, and this house that I'm in now, as I've said previously, it was newly refurbished, ready for us moving in this year. So it was an empty house, and it has 6 bedrooms, so all 6 rooms are available. So I asked him if he wanted me to put him in touch with my landlord and see about getting a room here, and so he did, and that's what's happened. So my friend Joe, who I know from Liverpool, is living here. Besides him, the 4 other people are all guys. A couple of them are a bit older than me, like 26. One of them is the same age as me, and one's a couple of years younger. 3 of them are at Goldsmiths Uni doing artsy courses, and the other one is at Trinity Uni also doing an artsy course, because where I live is very close to Goldsmiths. But so far, everyone seems absolutely lovely, not had any problems whatsoever. I was really pleased that there were people living here that were the same age or older than me, because I was really worried that with it being close to Goldsmiths, I would end up living with a bunch of 19-year-olds doing their undergraduate courses, you know, like sort of moving into their first student house after living in halls during first year. That's really not the case, and that's great, because having that sort of extra maturity that you do when you're a few years older. The house so far, touch wood, is being really well looked after. It's little things like if the toilet roll runs out, replacing it, because obviously we all need to do our bit and buy some stuff for the house. Tiny things like hanging the shower mat over the shower to dry, so that you're not walking into the bathroom over a wet bath mat, because our shower room here is tiny. Everyone's doing their washing up, everyone's keeping the kitchen clean. It's all just good so far. Whereas I know from experience, when I was 19, you know, my second year at uni, I certainly didn't have as much, what's the word? Not respect, I suppose maybe it is respect, but you know, I was a bit lazier than I am now, and I think that's kind of a general rule for younger students. You know, no one's a bad person usually, but it's just the way that these things go. And you've got to learn to live with other people and respect them and keep things clean and tidy for the sake of everyone. And that's adult life, isn't it? Like, let's be honest there. It's good to have these habits, so that's great. And as you'll know from my room tour, I love this room. I'm really happy here. It's a really good size, it's nice and bright, and I've got everything in it that I could possibly need. So that is fabulous. Also, the location is great. I'm right next to a little park. I say a little park, it's actually quite a big park. And at the other side of the park, depending which sort of way you veer off, there are 2 stations. So it means that I've got two options in terms of my commute to both uni and work as to where I get on the train from. So that's great to have those options, and the links are really good. To work, it is like a half-hour commute, and to uni it's more like 40 minutes, so really can't complain about that. And also cost effective, because with work I stay in the same zone, so if I'm sure most of you know, but for those of you who don't, London is split into zones. So Central being Zone 1 and sort of Essex being Zone 7 to 9. And where I live is Zone 2, and where I get off for work is Zone 2. So because I'm staying within the same zone, it only costs me £1.90 each way, which is really decent. It's less than half of what I was spending on diesel to get to work when I was working in Harrogate. And with uni, I do go sort of through Zone 1 then back into Zone 2, so it charges me something like £3, is it £3.40 each way? So going to uni is a little bit more expensive, but that's only 2 days a week, and it's still cheaper than the generic £8.10, is it £8.10 or £9.10 charge for a Zone 1 and 2 day ticket. If that means nothing to you, don't worry about it, but I think a lot of people know what I'm getting at there. If you've been to London recently, you know. So that's great, the location's great, the area's great, it's full of families, haven't had any trouble whatsoever, I haven't heard any fights, haven't heard any gunshots, haven't heard any police sirens or ambulance sirens or anything like that. Feels really safe to walk around, even in the dead of night when I'm coming back late after going out for drinks or whatever. So that is all fantastic. The landlord's really good here as well. He's already bought us an extra fridge freezer. So we have, like, as you'll see in the house tour, we had like a full height fridge and a full height freezer that gave us a shelf each in each one. But he's also bought a separate fridge freezer. So it's one that's got the bigger fridge and a smaller freezer, because the fridge space is what we were kind of tight on. But none of us asked him for that. None of us said that the fridge wasn't big enough, because we were all managing fine. And yeah, he went out and did that and spent the money on that without us asking him, which was amazing, because most landlords, as you probably know, are quite stingy people, don't want to spend as little as possible. So that's great. And it's little things like, we only have one bin in the kitchen, and I asked if we could get a second one so that we can separate recycling, because it's annoying having to take recycling every time you've got one can or bottle that needs to go outside. And he was like, yeah, no worries, straight on it. So all good there. So let's move on to uni. Uni is such an interesting one. It's really good, but it's such a different setup to what I am used to. So obviously when I was at John Moores, that is quite a big uni. It has hundreds of courses, it has several campuses and buildings, and extensive facilities. Where I am now, the London School of Architecture, it literally has my master's course, and besides a couple of outreach programmes, that's it. So that is 2 years of architecture master's students, because it's a 2-year course. So you have first years and your second years, about 70 to 75 people in each year, and that is it. And therefore the facilities are a lot smaller too. So we are literally in a church hall. We have sole use of the space. It's a long-term lease that they've got. They only moved into it this year. It's not even finished yet. There's still bits that they need to do. So if you just imagine a Victorian Methodist chapel, I don't know how, there's one in my village, I think they're quite common, they quite often get converted into houses, but just like a red brick chapel, that is the kind of building that we are in, but we are obviously using it as an architecture studio. So it's one massive room, it's a flexible space, so you can lay the chairs in a lecture format when someone's giving a lecture, or you can pull the tables out and have tables when you're using it as a studio space to actually sit and do your work. They've also put what they're calling a cold kitchen in the corner, so it's just a space with mugs and glasses and a boiling water tap. You know, it does filtered water, normal cold water and boiling water, which is fantastic. And then downstairs in the basement, they're in the middle of constructing a workshop so that we've got somewhere to make models. and there's some kind of school of furniture designing or building that's going down there to run it. So they will run it for their school, but we'll have full access of it. Excuse me. I think that's because LSA couldn't really afford to have an extra member of staff full time down there. So by getting this school in there, obviously they don't have to pay them because this school is grateful for use of the space, but sort of in return are happy to have us down there and help us out, basically. There is a partial part of the building has a first and second floor. So the main studio is sort of a double, triple height space that goes up into the roof, but the front of the building has rooms above it. And so up there is a seminar room, so you can have smaller sessions of like 20 up to 24 people, another toilet, and a couple of offices for the admin staff. The school has 5 permanent members of staff. So there's the director of the school, the head of admissions, and sort of registrar, that's the same person. There's the head of teaching, there is the program leader, and there is the marketing leader. But as you can imagine, with there only being 5 of them running the whole place, they all do more than what their job title suggests. And then on top of that, there are 12 design tutors that come in on a part-time basis, simply for when we have sessions with them, have our tutorials and guidance and whatnot. And almost all of them are actually directors of their own architecture practices. So that's great because it means that we have really good insight into, you know, the profession, and they really do know what they're talking about because they are practicing architects, not just academics, which, you know, can be a bit of an issue because some of their with academics they're not really the most practical people. So with regards to design, I personally think it's better to have people that are practicing in the industry. But yeah, just going back to the space, the church hall that we're in is actually joined onto a grade 2-star listed church that is still active. And with that, the bit that joins us is actually the toilets. Siri's about to go off. Sorry about that. The toilets and a kitchen, what they're calling the hot kitchen. So they've put this cold kitchen with like just the mugs and glasses and boiling water tap in the studio area to give us a private space that's just ours, and then this what they're calling the hot kitchen, so it has an oven and microwave and dishwasher and a washing machine, etc. That's for us to actually prepare food and lunches if we want to, but that is obviously under the understanding that we have to share that space with the church. But so far, from the 3 weeks we've been at uni, I've only seen that church be used once while we've been there, because obviously church services are often on a Sunday, and I think that's pretty much as often as it gets used. But yeah, so it's been really interesting getting used to that, but really good. Everything that we've done so far has been really inspiring and informative, and I've actually wanted to be there because it's not the take that they have on the architectural field and profession is, you know, it's a forward-thinking one. And a lot of what I was hearing when I was at John Moore's was the mundane, blowing smoke up famous architects' arses, whereas at LSA, they're getting us to think a bit more critically. So as much as, yep, that was a great design at the time, what are the flaws with that? What could they have done better? How would they do it now? Was that even really that good at the time, or was it just because of their name behind it that made it good? Things like that. So that is, yeah, it's really fun, basically. Really, really enjoying it. So uni is Monday and Tuesday, and yeah, so far so good. With regards to work, yeah, the same. It is fantastic. I can't tell you how pleased I am to have got the job that I have got. It is such a brilliant practice from what I've seen of it so far. They are really hot on the sustainability, which is really important to me because sustainability and the climate crisis is something that, you know, is really there's not enough being done about it because the governments don't want to stop using fossil fuels because the oil and gas industries pay them so much money. And we're not going to get political here, But genuinely, there is not enough being done out there. Whereas at the company I'm working for, it is not just a tick box exercise to say, oh, we've tried to be eco-friendly with this or sustainable with this. It is a genuine, what are we doing on this project? How can we make it carbon neutral or net zero carbon, or even, is it carbon positive? Basically, where it's actually reducing the amount of carbon in the world, which is possible through various methods. This video is going to be too long. That's just a video on its own if you want to hear about it. But effectively, what I'm getting at is every conversation to do with projects is how can we make this as sustainable as possible. And the team that I'm on is the adaptive reuse team. So that is all existing buildings, taking an existing building and transforming it into something new. And that could be adding it to it. There's projects. They're all buildings in London, the team that I'm working on. There's projects which are maybe already, the existing buildings maybe 18 stories high, 18 floors, and we're saying, right, we want to add another 12 floors on that. So it's still pretty big projects and pretty mammoth stuff. It's just not all new build, because there are so many buildings out there that just don't need to be demolished because they are structurally sound and they have really good bones, as you would say, and you can work with it because most blocks, tower blocks, office blocks, whatever, the structure is in the core and not in the external walls. So you can rip off the whole of the outside of the building and rebuild that, because quite often that is the bit that looks outdated, is the facade, the exterior of the building. So you often get, your 90s granite clad office block or concrete with single glazed windows, whatever, that can all be ripped off without affecting the structural integrity of the building and replaced. And that's a lot of what we do, but also a lot of adding on to what's already there. So basically the whole point is it's not just tiny jobs of like, oh, it needs new carpets and a lick of paint. It's much bigger than that. Some of them are different scales, some of them aren't being extended, but in a lot of cases it is a complete transformation and rebuild of a building, but also using what we've already got. And it's also cool stuff like reusing materials. So there's one building that was clad in white granite, and they've taken that white granite and they've repurposed it to use on the walls of every lift lobby on each floor throughout the building. So, the carbon emissions with regard to that, it's not having to be taken off site, it's not having to be disposed of, it's not going to be sat in landfill. Instead, it stayed on site. They used a software to map out where each panel would go so that it would use as little cuts as possible to the stone, which saves labour and money, and it stayed on site, so there's no carbon emissions attached to it whatsoever, apart from whatever energy they used for the few cuts that they had to do. So things like that, it's just really great for that to be at the forefront of what we're doing, whilst making sure that these schemes are still amazing. Having that sustainability aspect, yeah, it's fantastic. And the office, oh my gosh, I never thought I would work in such a cool office. It is amazing. It's a hot desking situation, so that each team has their own space within the office, but you can sit at any desk. But you don't even have to sit there. You could go and work at a little table in the breakout spaces on each floor. So each floor has booths or little tables that you can sit and eat your lunch, or a bar stool, or you can work downstairs on the big long tables in the communal area where everyone eats their lunch. It's a massive office. There's 250 people working there. Excuse me. Each floor has its own kitchen. Each kitchen has a coffee machine with like 12 different blends of coffee, and there's a hot water tap that also does sparkling water and filtered water, and the drawer has 20 different types of tea in it, and there's every single type of milk under the sun you could imagine waiting for you in the fridge. And each kitchen has has two dishwashers, so when one's on you can start filling up the other one and then swap over. An ice machine, so if you want ice in your water or if you want to make an iced coffee, just little things like that. But also the things that they do in terms of putting on lectures. So I went to a sustainability lecture where people were presenting their projects and the different ways in which they made them more sustainable. There was all 250 of us there, and the company got pizza in for everyone. And then we had this thing that was called an all teams, where we joined on a big call with all of the other offices in Europe, because it's a global company that I'm working for. They have 53 offices around the world, but they have 5 in Europe, or maybe more. There's Birmingham, London, Munich, Berlin, and Paris. So yeah, 5. And so everyone in the London office piled downstairs. Everyone from the other offices jumped on Teams. They were on a huge screen, big projector screen, and we went round each office and what projects they'd won and what they'd been doing and what they'd recently completed. And it's all a big celebration of the staff and everything that everyone's managed to achieve. And again, they bought us all pizza. So yeah, that is such a lovely environment to work in. Because of the hot listing situation, because it's such a big office, the office is split into 6 studios. And so what I was getting at earlier is that each studio has their own area of desks that they can sit at. And that means that each studio has their own director as well. And so the directors are just sat in there with you. There's no separation, there's no hierarchy in terms of seating. And it just feels so much more informal, but still professional, just to the extent that it feels like a comfortable working environment. It's little things like I can wear trainers to work, I can listen to music at work. Core hours are 9 till 6, but you can come and go whenever you please as long as the work gets done and it doesn't clash with meetings. Just little things like that. I get health insurance for free. I get dental insurance for free. I get my eye test for free, which is standard with office jobs, I know, but they also give me £100 towards new glasses every time my prescription changes. I get 2 bonuses a year, with one in January and one in December. One in July and one in December. They're just, so far, seem like a really great place to work, and I am so proud and grateful to be working there, because it really is at the forefront of architecture and also the modern ways of working, which I'm not going to diss my old practice, but there were certain things with the way that they operated that were not great and a bit out of date. Let's leave that behind. So, but in saying that, obviously that explains why I am so happy working where I am now. So yeah, obviously at uni 2 days a week, working 3 days a week, and it's all great. And social life is just fantastic down here. I already had several friends down here, and I don't think I've had a full night at home on my own yet. I've been out almost every single night doing things, whether it's going to a gallery or a talk or out for drinks or out for dinner. It's just lovely. And I'm sure at some point, I'll need to calm down a bit and take things a bit steadier, because otherwise I'll get burnt out, and also need to be careful about finances. But on the whole, things really couldn't be much better right now. I'm in a really good place and I'm really grateful for that. This year, as you may know, has not gone exactly as I expected, and I've never been a huge believer in fate, but I genuinely think that the way things have worked out and the situations and explanations for how things have happened is all fate. Like, it's all meant to be, because the way I found my job is just hilarious, and I didn't even know about this uni until July or June even. I really thought I was going to be in Manchester this year, and I thought I was going to be at uni full-time 5 days a week, and still working part-time for my old company that I worked for in Harrogate. And yeah, it's just not like that at all, but for the better, and I'm so incredibly pleased. So yeah, I just thought I'd come on and tell you all how I'm getting on, because I know some of you have been wanting to know. Thank you for all of you who have sent me the most amazing messages over the last few months, sort of this whole roller coaster of preparing for what has just happened, and the support that you guys have given me. I am so grateful for, and it really, it really does help knowing that so many people who I've never even met, and I don't know you guys really. I know names in comments, but let's face it, you know a lot more about me than I do about you, and the fact that you're willing to support me is just an amazing thing, and not something I ever expected to have. So anyway, I'm going to leave it here because we're almost at half an hour. thanks so much for watching. Feel free to like and comment and subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed, and I'll see you all again soon with another video.